Hi, I'm Tiffany of TipStitched and welcome to my YouTube channel. This video is going to be a little bit more of a tutorial and I'm going to show you how I create the digital sketches that I use for my seasonal vision boards. If you've been to the blog, you've checked out my digital sketches of the things that I plan on making this spring and summer season of 2020, and I've printed them out and I like to keep them right here at my desk. Now, the reason that I do this digitally and not by hand is obviously I have no artistic talent. I'm a techie person. I like using gadgets and apps, and that is what I use to create my digital sketches. If I had to draw out what I was going to make, it would be a sad state of affairs. So let's jump into Adobe Photoshop and I'll show you how I make these digital sketches and how I combine them all onto one canvas so I can print out sort of a vision board that I keep at my desk, or you could pin to a cork board. Now, I know not everybody has Adobe Photoshop because it is a paid application, so I hope to bring you another video of how to do something similar in Microsoft Paint, but that will be after this because I want to make sure that I show you what I actually use to create the ones that I shared on my blog. So without further ado, let's jump onto my laptop. So first, let's take a look at this spring and summer vision board that I have with several digital sketches. So these are all the patterns that I would like to make this season. I probably won't get to them all, I hardly ever do, but I just sort of like to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. That way I have something to pick from when it's time for me to sew. And you'll see that there are two different types. There's like this red dress here, McCall 7997, where I've just taken the line drawing and I've just sort of colored it in with the red shade. I've done the same thing for this romper here in green. This is McCall's 8047, I believe. And then this McCall's off the shoulder sort of jumpsuit that is McCall's 8028, if I'm not mistaken. And those are the simplest to do because all you need to do is grab the line drawing and sort of color it in. But I also have the dress here, McCall's 8083 and McCall's 8030, where I actually took an image of the fabric that I wanted to use and merged it with the line drawing so you could have an idea of what that looks like. Now, of course, that's not going to be 100% correct because the scale is going to be a little off. Obviously, the flowers aren't that big on this dress, and the hashtags are definitely not this big on this dress, but it is a sketch, and it just gives you an idea of how your final garment will look. So let's move on to starting with the easier option of filling in the color. Okay, now the first thing that you're going to want to do to create your own digital sketch is to start with a new canvas. So you're going to go up to File and select New. And then it's going to give you different sizes. Depending on what version of Adobe you're using, this may look a little different. But regardless, there's always going to be a letter size that you can choose. And that's the size that I choose because in the end I want to print this out and either pin to my corkboard or keep at my sewing table. So I like to use the letter size, but you could use whatever size that you like. Click Create. And now you'll see that you have a new canvas. And the first thing that we need to do is get the line drawing that we want to use. So we're going to go out online. I use Google Chrome, but whatever you use. And I'm going to do a dress that I've actually already done, and that is McCall's 8090. Once you open it up, if you're familiar with McCall's website, down at the bottom is where they have all the line drawings. And in order to just take the front here, I'm going to use a tool called the snipping tool. It has been upgraded to snip and sketch, but I haven't pinned that to my taskbar yet. See, they're trying to tell me to go ahead and use it. They work almost exactly the same, so either one is fine. We're going to select New. And you'll see you have this like little crosshair. You're going to press down on your mouse or your touchpad and drag it across the area that you want to select. And you'll see right now your screen is sort of grayed out. When you do this, the area that you've selected will become vibrant. So see how these are now solid black lines and not sort of grayed out gray. You know that you've selected what you wanted. Release your mouse or your touchpad. Then you're going to right click and click Copy. Then we're going to go back to Photoshop. And then you're going to Control V for paste. And you'll see your line drawing is right there. Make sure that you have your Move tool on over here. Let me see if I can get that to highlight. Yeah, your Move tool right here. And then you can drag the dress wherever you like. You can also zoom in by typing the percentage of zoom you'd like to have. Like you can change it to 50, you could change it to 60. You can also press Control and drag your mouse or your touchpad left or right to come in further or to zoom out. Now you can do the simple fill. So what you're going to do is you're going to select a color, either from down here on your forefront color. You can swap around to pick a red or a blue, or you can go to your color wheel palette. Yours may be located somewhere else on your monitor, on your program, and you can select a color here, or you can just pick a swatch. I made this in sort of a green, so let's just pick a green, and you're going to go ahead and hide that back, and you're going to pick the paint bucket tool. The paint bucket tool is what allows you to fill in the enclosed areas. So if you pick an area inside the dress, make sure you've selected it. If you pick an area inside the dress, that area will become green. Sort of like coloring in or just flooding that area with the color. So it's going to fill in any enclosed space. There are actually seam lines on this third and fourth tier, or second and third tier. So it's not going to fill in that whole row, but just select those areas that are enclosed and you can fill the whole thing. But be careful, because if you click something that's not enclosed, like outside the border, you're going to flood a whole area that you don't want to be colored. So you can just Control Z to come back out of that. That's the undo. And you can just keep on filling. So this will give you the idea of what the dress will look like in green. You can zoom in if you need to get closer to fill in these collar bands. And voila. One thing I forgot to mention is when I bring in these patterns, I like to go ahead and rename everything. So over here in the layers window, I'm going to rename this layer M8090 because that's the pattern number. Now you can right click here and select duplicate layer. You want to keep it in the file that you're working in. It's going to automatically rename it the same name as the previous layer and add copy to it. Click OK. If you go back to your move tool again, you can drag the new one over. See how we did that? Now let's say you were trying to decide if you wanted to have it in green or blue. You can go back to the paint bucket tool, make sure you select your new color. We're going to pick a blue. And now you can fill the new dress in as long as you have the right one selected. Make sure you have the right one selected. And you can fill that in with blue. And then you can decide, hopefully this gives you a better visual image of what the dress will look like in blue versus green. So you can see the comparison right there side by side on your screen. And lots of times this just makes it easier for me to decide what fabric or what color I want to use for different patterns. Now you could duplicate this yet again if you like. And maybe this is going to name it copy 2. You're going to go back to your move tool. Make sure you move it again. You're going to go back to your paint bucket again. So you're just using the same 2 or 3 tools over and over. And you're going to go back to paint. And let's say that we want to do like an analogous sort of color here. We're going to pick a lighter blue. And then we can fill in certain areas. Say that we just want to have it light blue and dark blue. So you can go lighter blue there, lighter blue on the second tier. Maybe you want to make the collar bands and the front band pop, so you'll make those the lighter blue as well. And now you have 3 options. You have your solid green, your solid blue, and your analogous blue color. And so this is a really easy way to see your vision on paper, or on screen I should say, and then you can print it out to have on paper to help you decide what to make. Now we're going to move on to the little bit trickier, but it's not really that tricky, way of adding actual fabric images with your line drawing. So we're going to start very similarly by going back out to McCall's website, and I'm going to pick McCall's 8083, which is a dress that I've made and you can see on the blog TipStitched.com. And we're going to grab that line drawing, again using that same snipping or snip and sketch tool. So it still has the image from before. We're going to click new. And then you're just going to drag and hold and release. See how I caught that little bit of wordage there, like the bottom half of front? I don't want that, so let's try again. There we go. Now we've not got that. We're going to right click and copy. Like we did before, we're going to go back to Photoshop and Control V for paste. Now you make sure that you're on the move tool, and you can move this dress, maybe start you a second row here. And now that we have that placed, we need to go out and get an image of the fabric. Now, if the fabric is something that you're considering buying online or you purchased online recently, you can probably go back out to that website and just grab that image. If it's something that's been in your stash for a while, you can use your cell phone camera and just take a picture of it and upload it to your computer, email it to yourself, attach it straight via USB, whatever you need to do to get that into your computer, and then you can bring in that image as well. But this is fabric I bought from, or I got from fabric.com not too long ago, so I can still find it. We're not worried about their COVID policy right now. And then you're going to use your snipping tool again and just start a new selection, and you're just going to select a portion or the whole thing of the pattern that you're looking at, the fabric that you're looking at. Right click and copy. Again, go back to Photoshop, and then we're going to again Control V to paste, and you'll see that little snippet of the fabric came through. Now with the move tool still on up here, if you take this and you move it over your dress, it's actually over the dress, and that's because in Adobe Photoshop, whatever layer that is on top over here on the layers panel is going to display on top on the image itself on the canvas. So we're going to drag this fabric layer underneath the pattern layer, and while we're over here, let's go ahead and rename this. We're going to rename the fabric layer Mustard Petal, and I'm going to rename the pattern label, double click, to M8083 because that's the pattern number. And now you see it's underneath the pattern, but you're not seeing it come through on the dress. So make sure that you have the pattern selected, and you're going to go to this magic wand tool. It selects similarly colored image area. So if you select it, and you have a couple of options. There's new selection, and there's add to selection, and there's subtract from a selection. I usually keep it on add to selection because it's only gonna pick up the area that's bounded by line. So you only got one half of the skirt. If you click next to it, you'll get the second half of the skirt. If you just had the new selection on, every time you clicked a new area, you would lose the old area. Likewise, if you have the addition on and you click an area you didn't mean to click, you can go to the subtract from selection and then undo the selection that you had. Sometimes if you select all of the areas at the same time, you'll lose the thin black lines in between. Sometimes you don't. I'm just going to go ahead and select all the main dress pieces, as you can see here, and select, hit delete on your keyboard. When you do that, all the white area deletes and you get to keep the lines. We're going to click Control D, which is for deselect those areas, so that you can see the lines and the little buttons a little better. Now you'll see that this is going out further than the border of the dress image that we copied. So we're going to go to the fabric layer, select it over here in the layers column, and resize it by clicking Control T, which means transform. Make sure that your aspect ratio is locked here, and you can drag it to be closer to the size of your pattern. Sometimes this isn't going to work exactly, and then you can unlock the aspect ratio. Just keep in mind that if it gets too narrow or gets stretched too tall, then your pattern will get really skewed on your fabric. But this actually works just fine, so we're going to click enter, and you can see it gives you an idea of what that dress would look like. Now you can also do a combination of the filling and the images. So let's say you wanted to do this belt in black as a contrast. You can go back to the paint bucket tool, make sure you set your color to black, And then make sure that I have the fabric layer. I need to switch back to the pattern layer selected. And you can fill in the belt with the black color or the black paint. And you can see how that would look. Now, just like the color, maybe you're debating between two different patterns. So let's go back out to the internet, to fabric.com. When I was actually selecting this fabric, I also saw this red polka dot fabric in the same family. It's the same slub linen look, and I considered using it as well. So we can get it up on the screen. Go to your snipping tool or snip and sketch. Select a new area of the red polka dot. Right click copy. Go back to Photoshop. Control V to paste. Let's go back to our move tool. Let me hide these colors. And you can move this layer back over the dress. Now, it's still above the pattern layer, so let's rename this to Red Dots 1. So we can remember which one it is. And then we're going to drag it underneath the pattern layer. Again, we're going to do Control T to sort of reshape this, make it a little smaller. We'll take it in a bit. Now that looks nice. So these eyes over here next to the layers cut on and off the visibility of that layer. So now you can look at the dress in red and think, oh, I like that. Click the eyeball and it will be not visible, and now you can see the yellow. And you can sort of go back and forth and try to decide which one you like better. Obviously, I like the yellow, even though my favorite color is red, so I went with it. You could also duplicate this layer of the pattern, especially now that we have it cleaned out of all the white space. You could use that move tool, you could drag it over. You could go back to your red dots, turn them on. Make sure you have the move tool on, and you could drag it underneath this dress, the copy, and you can look at them side by side, just like we did with the color fill. So this is how I do my digital sketches. I hope this little tutorial has helped. If you don't have any experience with Adobe, perhaps this was a little bit much. If you'd like to see some more maybe videos about Adobe, one, I'm sure you can find them on YouTube, or let me know in the comments and maybe I'll do more of an intro course. But this is simple enough as long as you stick to the tools that I pointed out in this video. Hope this helps. Bye-bye.